I'm coming to you live from Aurora, Illinois. We've got Wilson Copeland with us from Lakeland, Florida. Are you actually in Lakeland?
I am.
Okay.
I'm actually in Lakeland, yeah.
And so we'll begin our study in just a few minutes. And while we're waiting for people to join us, Wilson's going to tell us a little bit about the work that he does with the Chinese. That's why I'm going to say it, because it's not just about going to China, although he does. I don't know, how many times have you gone to China? Have you lost count?
Yeah, 24, 25.
Yeah. And so, but the work that you do, tell us a little bit about the work you do there, but you're also doing some work here as well.
Yeah, I've been, as I said, I've made a number of trips now over the years, and the last 3 years I've been going twice a year, except for this year because of the virus. And I've been focusing on about 5 or 6 different cities where I know Christians in small groups. They're all small groups ranging from 1 or 2 people to, 6 or 8 or 10 people, something like that. And I just go and get a hotel room, and sometimes we meet in their home, sometimes we meet in the hotel room. So I just go to encourage them, study about things they want to study, and study with their friends if they bring friends to me. And we just sit around all day studying the Bible. It's a tough gig.
How long
Go ahead.
How long do you stay?
1 month.
And is what you're doing illegal?
Yes. It's illegal as far as the Chinese are concerned. It's illegal to for foreigners to come and preach the gospel or involve themselves in religious activities. So my attitude is we must obey God rather than men. I go on a tourist visa, and I don't lie. I just go on a tourist visa, and I that's the way to get in. And if asked, I'll tell them, but I've never been asked. I stay away from things. I stay away from anything political. I won't even talk to the Chinese about anything political. If they ask me questions, I'll answer a question about Trump or Clinton when he was president. They'll ask me about things, and I'll give them a short answer. But I've intentionally stayed away from anything like that, because if ever questioned, I want to be able to tell the authorities, I didn't come here to talk politics. I am no threat to you or to your institutions. That's not why I'm here. And so I intentionally stay away from that kind of stuff just for that reason.
And you continue to do some things online. We've got about a minute, so you're having some online studies. That's allowed for them to do that.
I don't know what the regulation or the law is about that. But I pretty much just follow their lead. We use a program, or we use a program called WeChat. It's kind of like the Facebook of China. Everybody in China has a WeChat address. It dominates China more than Facebook or Twitter, dominates here, because I have yet to meet a person, old or young, that doesn't have a WeChat account. And we can talk over it. It's kind of like WhatsApp. If anyone has used that here, you can talk live. You can talk we don't talk face to face. It takes up too much bandwidth. We talk just with the voice, and you can have up to 9 people in a group at one time.
So I've got more questions for you to answer about your China work, but Lord willing, you'll be back on Thursday, and that'll be our topic. Talk a little bit more about some of your experiences there. I'd love to hear about that. But I want to welcome everybody who's joined us for Encouraging Words tonight. And I haven't said it for a long time, but I also will welcome people who are listening to it recorded. It is recorded on my Facebook page, the church's Facebook page, which is Aurora Westside Church of Christ. And also some of you are listening on our website, which takes you over to YouTube. And you don't have to be on Facebook at all to see us there. And so if you know somebody who would like to or benefit from some of the encouraging words that we're continuing to do each night, you can tell them to go to aurorachurch.com and click on live. And also there's a place they can click on and it will take them over to our YouTube channel and they can look at some of the past ones. Even you can do that, of course, aurorachurch.com. And you can find some of the recorded ones that we have. I think there must be close to 70 of them now that we've done. We have Wilson Copeland with us from Lakeland, Florida. Wilson, welcome back tonight.
Thank you. It's always great to be with you. Has the sun gone down enough that you can see me okay?
Actually, yeah, you're looking fine.
Good.
I had the sun coming in the window there a few minutes ago, having a little bit of a glare, but as he predicted, it's going down fast enough that we can see you real well. Let me begin with a reading. Our studies with Wilson have been in James chapter 3, verses 17 and 18. And each time I'm beginning by reading those verses before we start to explore another aspect of it. It says, but the wisdom from above is first pure, then then peaceable, gentle, reasonable, full of mercy and good fruits, unwavering, without hypocrisy. And the seed whose fruit is righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. Thank you for joining our study in James chapter 3. Today we've studied about the meaning of the word wisdom already, and that it's first pure, then peaceable. And today we're going to look at how that wisdom is gentle.
The word gentle, I'm sorry.
There it is, you can say it.
Gentle, wisdom and gentle. Well, the wisdom from above is contrasted in this passage with the wisdom from below, which is earthly and sensual and devilish. And this word, as with other words that we study in this passage, there can be a clear distinction of how people act, whether or not they have imbibed of the Spirit of God through His Word and allowed that to change their hearts, to change their actions, to change their words, to change their lives, or whether they are still of the world. And people of the world often are not gentle, and they don't care if they rub you the wrong way. They don't care what they say to you. They don't care how they act. And if you don't like it, it's just tough. It's just too bad. But Christians care. Christians care. And the wisdom from above is gentle. When I wrote the original article about this, I used my wife as an example. I went to the hygienist today, went to the dentist, get my teeth cleaned for my 6-month checkup. And she was very gentle. She was very gentle. I teased Becky because Becky is a trained dental hygienist. And she worked for several years, a few years, 3 or 4 years after we first married to put me through Florida College so that we wouldn't have any debts. And then the first couple of years we were married outside of Florida College. And I tease her because when she was first learning it at dental hygiene school, they would have people come in and get their teeth cleaned as guinea pigs for them to practice. And the first time she cleaned my teeth, she wasn't very gentle. I tease her, it took me a month for my mouth to not be sore anymore. That was an exaggeration, but I still have fun teasing her. But she learned to be gentle. And we have to learn to be gentle sometimes. But we use the word gentle a lot. We use the word gentle. We understand someone who's gentle with their words, or we just say that's just a kind, gentle person. Or maybe a child says, a little girl says, I want mommy to comb my hair, not daddy, because daddy is not gentle. Daddy hurts me. Some have learned to comb hair gently and some haven't. But we understand the meaning of the term, the idea of the word. And so we want to learn to be gentle with each other. The definition, if we're going to define it, and it's probably not necessary with those words, but Vine says equitable, fair, moderate, forbearing. Strong says equitable, mild, gentle. And so like with a lot of definitions, it's probably unnecessary, but that's the idea of the word. And I think that general understanding of the word helps us get started with it.
You know, I don't know that a lot of people think about God being gentle, that his word being gentle, and that instilling a gentleness in us. I've been looking forward to this study because it's not something that we think a lot about. And Wilson, I think you want to tell us about two particular uses of the word. So why don't you go ahead and give us the first one?
Yeah, it seems like as I was looking at this word, and the two flavors I'm going to talk about are closely related, I guess. Maybe one a subset of the other. I'm not sure. I'm not a linguist and I don't understand all this. But anyway, but the kind of two flavors of the word as I was looking at it. The first is kind of that idea we've already talked about, someone who is gentle and who is kind. English dictionary says kindly, not severe, not rough, but mild. We think of a gentle breeze, or we think of something like that. But there's, the word gentle is used a number of times in the New Testament, passages that we're familiar with. For example, in 1 Timothy 3:13, in the qualifications of shepherds or elders, it said they're to be gentle and not contentious. In Titus chapter 3 and verse 2, where Paul is writing to Titus and talking about the brethren, he says, speak evil of no man, not to be contentious, to be gentle, showing all meekness towards all men. And so in our lives, we're to not speak evil, we're not to be contentious. And so here it seems there's a contrast between being contentious and being gentle and showing meekness. And so in our relationships with one another, we need to learn to be gentle. Even in the church sometimes we're kind of rough with each other. In Galatians chapter 6, Galatians 6 verse 1, if someone is overtaken in a trespass, ye who are spiritual, restore such one in the spirit of gentleness. And so when we think about those who have fallen away from the faith and we're trying to bring back, we need to do it gently. We don't go in and run roughshod over people. We implore them and we encourage them and we beg them and we seek to win them back to Christ. One other passage quickly before we go on is, and this one maybe is the most touching to me, is 1 Thessalonians 2:7, where Paul says that about his relationship with those at Thessalonica. He says, I was gentle in the midst of you as a mother caring for her child. That brings up a picture there of you and caressing a young child and being, you talk about gentle. The mother is gentle because the child, the infant, is so fragile. And so Paul says, that's the way I treated you. I nurtured you as a mother nursing a child. And so that's the example. We need to think about how we interact with each other, how we come across sometimes with our words, our actions, our looks even. We can be everything but gentle sometimes.
That's really sad that we sometimes actually treat other people better than we treat the people that we would probably should be loving the most. And so sometimes that's because it's more about me, or it's about what other people think, or thing like that, or we expected more out of somebody else, and so we mistreat them, or we talk to them in a some kind of rough sort of way. So Wilson, what's the second way, your second flavor here of looking at gentleness?
What you said before I go on just quickly is we've often told married couples the same thing when we do counseling, we're talking to people. Sometimes married couples treat each other ways that they wouldn't treat anybody else. And so that just builds on what you were saying, how we treat each other in the body of Christ among people that we should be most gentle and loving with. We treat each other so roughly. Well, the second flavor, if you want to call it that, Vincent in his commentary said reasonable, talking about the same Greek word for gentle, reasonable. The word implies rather not being unduly rigorous, wherein not strictness of legal right, but consideration for one another is the rule of practice. Barclay, in his commentaries, quotes Aristotle saying, the man who is fair is the man who stands up for the last tittle of his legal rights. But the man who is gentle knows that there are times when a thing may be legally completely justified and yet morally completely wrong. And we might wonder, we might say, well, when would that be? What do you mean there might be a time when something is legally justified but is morally wrong? It would be unchristian, he says, to do it. Well, an example that comes to my mind immediately is what Paul says. Paul says over in Romans and in 1 Corinthians when he talks about the eating of meats. Eating of meats sacrificed to idols. In 1 Corinthians 10:23, he says, all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. Almost the same idea, the same wording here that Barclay uses. It's lawful, but it's not expedient. Why? Because I don't want to cause my brother to stumble. I have the right to do something, but because I care about my brother, I'm willing to set it aside. I'm willing to set aside my feelings about something or my liberties in some area so that I might win my brother, that I might teach him better, that I might encourage him, that I might show them the kind of love we've been talking about. And so it seems that this word gentle also sometimes has that same flavor of not pushing my rights, but being gentle.
You know, as Americans, I really think we struggle with this area because of our rights. we are so big on rights that we a lot of times, think that we can do anything to affirm our rights and to have what is rightfully ours. And when this spills over into God's people and treatment of other people, we're not willing to compromise our rights in order. I'm not talking about right and wrong, but we're not willing. We rightfully could do something, but there's another way that we could do it that is also right. But I have a right to do this, and I don't care about you. And God's saying, no, care more about the other than you care about your right to do it.
Yeah, I know we don't have time to go into the Romans 14 or 1 Corinthians 10 passage, but that's exactly, I think, what Paul is talking about is not pressing our rights, but caring about others and caring about their spiritual well-being and giving them a chance to grow and learn and mature and not and in no way stepping on that. My goal and my desire among God's people should be the nurturing and the well, Paul's in that passage in Romans 14:19, Paul says, follow after things which make for peace and edifying. Follow the things that make for peace and for edifying. And so that should be my goal. And so I should be gentle. Yes, I may have the right on some area, but I forbear. I'm gentle. I care about them. And so that's the wisdom from above.
You know, there's some people now that have shared a lot of things about before you open your mouth, make sure it's kind. Before you do this, make sure it's kind, and there's a whole list of things about kindness, and it might be good for us to stop and ask ourselves, is it gentle? How I'm going to respond, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say, how I'm going to act, is it gentle?
Yeah, I think those are cousins.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You know, the last thing I was had in my notes and just thinking about was, and God's reaction to us, God's actions towards us. This wisdom comes from above. And God was gentle with us. He didn't press his legal rights, we might say. If God would have pressed his legal rights, we'd all been doomed. But God, we see these words for forbearance, the long suffering of God, waiting in the days of Noah. God is not slow about his promise, as some count slowness, but is patient, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. And so this is again connected with his gentleness and his love, not the pressing of what we really deserve, but and to come to him.
I doubt that very many people think of God, or at least before this, thought of God as being particularly gentle. I'm not sure when you say, give me some words that describe God, that gentleness would come immediately to mind. But I hope that our study today has changed you in thinking about God. And I think it's encouraging to know that our perfect God is gentle with our imperfection, that our all-powerful God is gentle with us in our weakness. And that is super inspiring, not only for us in our relationship with God, but it is also inspiring us then to be gentle with one another. And Wilson, thank you for helping us see that a little bit more clearly today.
Thank you, David. Always enjoy our chats. I hope they're helpful to others. And yeah, I'm glad the sun went down.
Well, we'll see. Not everybody is always that happy that when the sun goes down. But,
not these days, yeah.
But I will tell you that the Lord willing, Wilson will join us again on Thursday. We've talked about wisdom. We've talked about it being pure. We've talked about it being peaceable. We've talked about being gentle. And in James, the next one is a great one. The wisdom from above is reasonable. That's going to be a great study, and I hope that you will join us for more studies. Our studies continue every night, but Wilson will join us again on Thursday night to talk to us about how wisdom is reasonable. Thank you for studying with us today.